I'm thrilled to have Yiem back for a quick update. By the way, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to use the BME app to submit those. Now, Yiem, since we last spoke, we've started to see some states relax stay-at-home orders. The number of drivers on the road, miles traveled in some areas is beginning to tick back up. Have you seen anything in the data yet that may point us to what, we'll use our catchphrase today, what the new normal might be for driving in the age of coronavirus?
So what fascinating things that we have observed, Casey, is that the crash frequency start to pick up already in May. So about probably the first 7 to 10 days that we have seen. So in Ohio, it's still quite stable at 45% year-over-year reduction from April even to May right now. But for Texas, the reduction has slowed down from 49% in April now to about 26% of the first set of May. And then in Massachusetts, 55% reduction to now only 20% reduction. So I think as states open up the ecosystem again, you start to see that crash frequency, which then will represent the claim cost for the industry, start to get back up. So that's what we have seen so far. And it's just surprising to us in terms of how fast they're getting back up. And the idea is for us to be able to provide this timely monitoring of what happened to the overall crash frequency and hence claim frequency for the industry on a timely manner.
Now, Yiem, I did hear you speak recently about how some of those declines in loss frequency are noticeably different depending on where you are. There's a marked difference between rural areas and what the urban areas are experiencing. Can you tell our audience more about that, and when or as things continue to rebound and miles traveled begins to increase even more again, do you expect the rebound to follow the same patterns you've seen in the decreases?
Yeah. So the answer of the rebound, I don't know, but we are still observing on a very timely manner. We have a daily production that basically allow us to see the insight flow through our system. And from the variation of reduction across geography, what we observe consistently, let's say in both states of Ohio and Texas, is that the larger or more populated counties or areas kind of face much larger reduction than the smaller, more or less populated counties. So that has been true, and we will continue to observe in terms of what about the rate of returning back for those kind of variation of geography. Do we see how they will come back? So that's we'll continue to observe. But right now, I think it's going to be anyone's guess to see how each rebound going to happen in each kind of region.
We actually had a question come in from the audience that's really a follow-up to that one. A lot of the focus has been on the reductions in frequency because of the decline in driving. What have we seen on severity? Is that something that's also on the decline, or you hear some anecdotal evidence of speeds increasing? When there are accidents, there are fewer people out to perhaps help respond. So is the severity seeing any type of shift as well?
From what we have seen, we have observed that the vehicle at crash, the speed of those vehicles, it basically kind of has been increasing by about 24% in April and slightly about probably 20% in May. So the physics of velocity and mass will dictate that if the speed of crash happens at the higher speed, it's likely that severity will go up. So even though the frequency will go down drastically, we suspect that many carriers will observe higher severity damage than otherwise from what we have seen so far.
Now, you mentioned earlier you're getting data, I believe you said, from 39 states on almost a daily basis. And it looks like you've got states that are contributing a little more frequently, or perhaps more data is available than others. Can you address any areas where there are still opportunities to gain additional understanding and perform these analyses, and in places you haven't yet completed those works?
Yeah, we'll continue to expand our kind of access to data with the state agencies. Some states are more advanced than the other, but we'll continue to get timely update as much as we can. And from what we learned so far, Casey, besides the space in terms of the counties with a different population and then the speed. We also observe the nature of the time pattern in terms of when people drive and then basically expose themselves to accidents, so largely different. So the whole concept of, let's say, during the weekday process, the curve during the rush hour from 7 to 9 and 3 to 6 basically kind of largely kind of flatten out dramatically. And that is true in kind of those 4 states that we have observed. And I think that part will affect those telematic carriers who use time of the day as their pricing factors, so that there'll be some imprecision that come from that. But I think for the non-telematic carriers, they won't be as affected by that, as much compared to the reduction of frequency and increase in potential severity.
Well, we've got another one from our audience, and it kind of plays in with the same theme here. Most folks agree that as you get more data or more accurate data, specifically, you start to get more accurate results from the different analyses that you perform. Are there sources that can feed the work that you're doing other than data coming from regulators or even from the carriers themselves?
Yeah, I think data from carriers themselves also very useful. And on top of that, it also, let's see what else. The Google, the Waze, and the Index of the world that can basically allow us to see the pattern of the commute. Basically, you think about the traffic flow in terms of how those commute patterns has shifted throughout the road network. That will be kind of very useful information to have as well for carriers to analyze, particularly those who have telematic capabilities.
I want to circle back and ask a question that I know we addressed in the earlier recording session, but I think it's a very important one to bring out. Again, telematics is starting to gain more penetration. You've got more carriers using it, and you've mentioned it a couple of times now. Carriers that aren't fully vested into any type of telematics enabled program, they're still able to take advantage of the insights that you can glean from this location data, the crash location data specifically. Is that right?
Correct. So for non-telematic carriers, the 2 key solutions that we know to be very useful. The one is basically the one that we call it location-based risk score. Basically, it's just an enhancement, more refined version of territory risk factor today. So that part we can provide you. Carriers can use territory factors or table, replace what they have, and then go from there. So that part is proven, and we have done 30 retro tests on that one. The next one that I think you can think about is like kind of telematic light, is that instead of having telematic program that can be quite costly and quite difficult to manage in terms of the resource and expertise, and also you still have to face with the customer adoption, what we have built is basically kind of a simpler version of risk assessment closer to telematics. If carriers can work with us to gather information about what is the most frequent destination that the customer policy or the prospect drive to, then by doing so, you have point A and point B that basically we want be given to TNEDICCA, and we will be able to provide, given point A, point B, what are the probable routes. And once we know probable routes, then we know the risk on those routes. And then by doing so, then we'll be able to provide the packaging of that understanding back to carriers for pricing that is basically much more refined than the typical territory risk factor analysis today. And it's then much closer to telematics, but much simpler to implement and much cost effective to do so.
Yiem, I appreciate all of your time. Certainly thank you for joining us again today. For any follow-up questions, are there any points that you'd like to leave our audience with?
So I hope everyone stay well and I would suggest that given the situation we are in, one of the strategy worth considering is try to monitor it on a timely manner in terms of the key performance metrics. Maybe you have to rely on the external data as well as your internal data to collaborate to see what are the truth that coming out in the marketplace in terms of what will be the new normal or whatever that is. So be resourceful and then also be open to some type of data that allow you to see the market dynamically.
Yiem, again, thank you for your time this afternoon. To our audience, if you missed any of our report, you can watch it from the VMA library. Thank you all.
Thank you.